Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. For us, I would call it a trial. We come at this from a different angle in terms of the energy transition. We're in the drilling business, but we drill for lithium, copper, nickel, and a whole lot of other battery metals, including gold as well. So, I'm sure you'll hear a lot of these companies around. In fact, I listened to a few presentations, and I heard the word drilling quite a bit. So it's music to my ears. So it looks in the future like we'll be really busy. But I'll tell you a little bit about our company, but also how we view the cycle going forward. We're quite bullish on where things are heading. So a little bit about us. We are the largest company. We've got the largest fleet of drills in the industry, over 600 drills scattered around the world. Our biggest operations are in Canada, US, Australia. But we also have good operations in South America, including Chile, Argentina, Brazil, the Guyana Shield, and then we're also in Mongolia, Indonesia, Philippines, and Southern Africa. So we cover the world, and we work for the bigger mining companies. About 80% of what we do is with seniors, 20% with juniors, but at the moment I would call it's well-funded juniors. Good example, Ivanhoe Electric. We're doing a lot of work for Ivanhoe Electric on their copper deposit in the U.S. And we did all the work for Ivanhoe when they discovered Oyu Tolgoi in Mongolia, for example. That's why we're in Mongolia. That now is Rio Tinto. So here you see a bit of the distribution in terms of the commodities we work for. A lot of it is gold. It's always about a third to half of what we do. Over the last 2 years, we've worked a lot more on the gold side, but over the last year, we've seen copper coming with more and more activity, and I think it's just starting. And I'll tell you a little bit about the previous cycle in our view, and I think we're just starting to see the pickup. And you hear of all these supply shortages coming on copper. That's because they haven't looked for it over the last 6-7 years while continuing to produce. And so there's a lot of pent-up exploration that needs to be done over the next few years. So here a few of the companies we work for around the world. That includes as well BHP, where we work at different locations around the world for these companies. And here you see the distribution again around the world. Our company and our strategy and our focus is on specialized drilling. And the reason we are focused on that is that drilling a deposit that's near surface or near a town or that doesn't have a lot of difficulty, there's a lot of small drillers that can do that. And so therefore, for us competing with small players that sometimes even operate out of their garage, we can't compete against that. We bring much higher standards on safety, higher standards, a lot more expertise. So therefore, we've decided to focus the company on what we call specialized drilling, and those are all things that have significant barriers to entry. And that includes deep hole drilling, Arctic drilling, directional drilling, anything that has a lot of logistics, need a lot of expertise. That's where we have focused the company, and we are the leader in that. When seniors are looking for companies for a difficult project, lots of time we get the phone call, and that's how we That's how we end up working on all these big projects around the world. In terms of quickly on the gold has the same, we talk about shortages on copper, but the gold has the same picture. You see here from 2012, where the peak on exploration happened, to today, the reserves are down 35% for the seniors, and that's why you're seeing companies like Barrick and Newmont increasing their exploration, and I think we're going to see that continue to increase. When you think of where the gold price is going these days, I think we're going to see a lot more activity on the gold side. And then when you go to copper, I'm a big copper bull. We've had this slide for, I think, 5 years now, and I've been joking around the office with the copper price recently coming up. I said even a broken clock is right twice a day. It took 5 years, but it looks like we're finally getting, the copper story is finally getting some traction in terms of the shortage and getting attention from the investment community. We're starting to hear a whole lot more in the news about the copper shortage. And basically, it's coming again because there's been a lack of exploration over the last 5-6 years while they continued to produce, and it produced a picture like this where you see the red and blue are the reserves that have been identified, and unless there's a significant exploration carried out, that's how it's going to look. While the demand, even if you didn't have anything happening on this energy transition, the copper, even if things were flat, we're going to face a supply shortage. But then when you lay on top of that the whole energy transition, all the battery metals, and the need for all of the copper, you can see that there's going to be a huge supply deficit in the future that can only be fixed with a lot of exploration and a lot of drilling. So we're really bullish on the future on both gold and copper. And again, gold and copper make up about 70%, 70 to sometimes even 75% of what we do. We also drill for lithium, uranium, nickel, zinc, and a lot of other metals as well. So again, quite bullish on the future. And really, I've been in the industry for 30 years, so I've seen a lot of cycles. And this slide here really illustrates, brings the picture of the copper shortage and the gold shortage. What you see here, the blue bars are the efforts that were carried out over the last 20 years on the exploration. And you see from 2003 to 2012, we saw an upcycle interrupted by the financial crisis for a year and a half. But really what happened is that you had from 98 to 2003, you had 6 years of very little exploration carried out. And when we got to 2003 and 4, mining companies were starting to cry about shortage of reserves, needing to replenish reserves, and it took a good 10 years of exploration from 2003 to 2012 to do that. And we got to really crazy times in our industry where there was no rigs available. When we got to 2007 and 8, there was no rigs available, and we were just putting rigs out and crews and training and trying to catch up. And it looks like we're getting back to the same place. All of this started in 2006, like that big uptick. And when you look at where we're at in 2023 in terms of exploration, if you take the dollars that were spent and you discount for inflation, you're pretty much back to the 2006 level of effort. So we're back to the same level with the same things in place. You've got mining companies talking about needing supply shortage coming, needing to do a whole lot more of exploration. And at the same time, in 2005 to 2006, we saw the copper price go from $1.20 to $4 in a span of a year. I think we're seeing the same thing happening. We saw copper jump from $3.80 to $4.60 just over the last month, and I think we're not done. I think we're going to see a lot more coming from the copper side and the copper price, which will drive exploration for the next few years. So our view is that we're going to see this the same thing repeating itself. History is repeating itself, and that we should be in for a good 5, 6, 7, probably 10 years of good exploration. And the difference between, in terms of our company and how we've positioned ourselves, back in 2003 when we entered the downturn, or we entered the upturn, coming out of a downturn, we had a lot of debt, and we played catch up. We were in bad shape. We had to rebuild our fleet, rebuild our shelves, our stock on the shelves, and rebuild our crews, and do all of that while things were really picking up and trying to catch up. This time around, we entered the downturn with a very strong balance sheet. We had cash on hand, so that allowed us to rebuild our fleet, put stock on the shelf, and ramp up our training and really create a database of drillers. So we're ready to go. Those are the 3 key things you need when you ramp up. If you need the rigs, you need the supplies, and you need the crews. And we've got all of that in place, and that's been by design over the last 3-4 years. And we're in an excellent position to take on. So we feel that looking forward, we're very bullish. We feel very good about the future, and we feel that we're very well positioned in terms of to take on what's coming at us. And when you look at everything you're hearing around today, around energy transition and everything, for us, all of that translates into a lot more work in the future, and we feel that we're well positioned. So that's the story, the short version of our story. I don't know if there's any questions or any. Yes?
I think you started to touch on towards the end.
Sorry, just 1 second for the mic. Thank you.
Sorry for the live stream.
No worries, no worries. You started to touch on it at the end, but I think we hear a lot about labor shortage in the mining industry. Is that at all kind of a headwind to Major's growth, or maybe y'all are prepared, but it's a headwind to your competitors?
It's a headwind for the drilling industry, for sure. And we saw it in the last upcycle, and we already saw it in this first uptick that we saw. But from our perspective, we've invested in terms of training school. We've set up training school in Canada, US, and Australia, but also in the Philippines. We've got a branch in the Philippines, and we've been training Filipinos to the US, Australian, and Canadian standards so that we have a labor pool there that's available for the rest of our company. So we're very well positioned for that. But when things turn, that's going to be the crunch will come from drillers, not necessarily rigs. I completely agree.
Cool.
Okay.
No more questions? Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. So that wraps up our morning session here. Thanks for being with me. If you have any questions,